Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2. My name is Jason, the creator of the mod, and I'm here with another quick video to show you how to install the mod and get started, and also cover some of the basic questions that show up most frequently on the Discord channel. So here we're on my desktop, and I actually have the downloaded version of the latest 1.4a, and I'm going to go ahead and extract that to the desktop. The version that you're getting from the Nexus should be in a .zip, so you can either use the built-in archive tools, or you can use WinZip, WinRAR, 7-zip, whatever works best for you. So I'm going to go ahead and extract that to a folder. I'll go ahead and drag that to where we can see it. When you open this latest version, you should have a couple of things included. So first and foremost is the map zones. So on this map that's included, you should get these actual zone codes. These can be used when submitting bug reports of issues that you're having inside the map. So say, for example, you're playing the game like we had earlier. We had someone report a crash inside of this one zone, and it didn't happen anywhere else, but whenever they entered this one zone, they started to have that crash. Providing me with the actual zone code will save a lot of time, and also specifying that it wasn't happening elsewhere on the map, that kind of thing. So it'll definitely speed things up. Next, we have the I Am Legion spawn IDs. So I've just released this with 1.4. This contains every ID of the current infected and humans inside the game, and I'll show you in the mod config video how you can use this information to set up the new spawn system. But basically, you can use this information to spawn all the new custom AI and then the built-in AI throughout the game. And then is the actual installer itself. And then below that, we have the optional uninstaller. I'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards. Then there's also the Patreon. So if you want to see what is included currently with the latest version of the Patreon, I try to keep this updated with each major release so you can see what's released. Big shout out to all my Patreon supporters as the mod continues to grow. Thank you guys so much for continuing to drive forward this mod. Then is the README. Please make sure to check the README each time, as it does include links to things like the manual, the Discord community, along with the basic information that I feel like I have to put this information out on the Discord constantly. But these are the most common things that relate to the mod, as well as was it designed for co-op and that kind of thing. So a lot of those common questions can be found here, and then down below is the actual change log for each major version of the mod. So those will continue to get updated with each release. And let's go ahead and dive into the install process. So for my version of the game that I currently have, or for the mod, if I run this installer and it comes up and it does not ask you, also I'll go ahead and mention, so when it asks for this window protected your PC, sometimes you will get antivirus will detect these custom installers because they're not added to a publisher list by Microsoft. That's okay. I can guarantee that this software does not have any form of virus. I'm not trying to infect your computer, just trying to speed up the process here and continue to support a quick and easy way to install the mod. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run anyway. And this is now going to launch. And when it does launch, if once this launches, this will actually include what's in the README start file. So you will always be able to quickly get that summary of the latest and greatest version and the latest change log right here. So if you don't want to open up that start, and if you want to get access to these links, it can all be found here in the installer. And then if you've already installed the mod before, what should happen if you have everything installed properly is that when you hit next, it will go straight to the actual options for installing the mod. If you've never installed the mod before, what I'm going to do really quickly is actually to show you what that should look like. So I'm going to actually run the uninstaller first. So I include that in a zip. You can just open this up. So again, I'm using WinRAR, and I'm going to just extract this out into this folder. And what this will do is that basically the installer is here to help make sure that registry files are being set up on your system so that you can better install updates in the future. If we run this uninstaller, it's going to wipe all of that data from the system itself. So once again, we need to verify that yes, this is safe to use. And we're going to go ahead and say yes, we want to remove all this information from the computer. So we'll go ahead and hit yes. it'll go ahead and uninstall, and it'll also wipe out those uninstall exes as well. So it's going to go ahead and just clean up your system for you. It should also remove any of the installed optionals that you've done, and then also remove any of the desktop icons that it's placed. So we're going to go ahead and run the installer again. When we run the installer this time and we click next, it's going to ask for the path. So this path is one of the more common questions that most people ask. So let me show you the best way to get this information. I'm going to go ahead and launch Steam. Once you bring Steam up, you can go to your Dying Light 2 game, right click, go to Manage, and then say Browse Local Files. And it actually opened it up in a window back behind here. But this is the actual root file where it's asking to install the mod. So what you can do here to save time is go ahead and just copy this root path. And so we're just going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to bring the installer back up here. And instead of browsing to it, I can actually just hit Control V and paste it in, or you can right click and hit paste. But that should now lead us directly to the root of the game. You can also browse to this location if you'd like. It will take obviously a little bit more time, but do make sure that you're clicking on just the base folder. It shouldn't go any further down than this. And I will also include, for those of you that have questions, I know a couple people have asked before, do I need to install the, or do I need to place the installer in a specific location on the system? No, you just need to run it from any location. So if you've set that path correctly, if we hit next, it's going to say that this folder already exists. This is letting you know basically that you've, up to this point, you've done everything correctly. If it does not show you this, then you've probably not selected the folder correctly. So we're going to say, yes, I want to install here. And now we're in the actual options selection. So I'm going to quickly go through here and summarize. In this top area, you have an optional choice between the different mod difficulties. If you're not sure which difficulty to choose, you can always go to the README. You can go, or I apologize, to the manual or to the Nexus page to get a better summary of those different difficulties. You can also ask around for players on the Discord community to find out which difficulty they prefer and which one they're enjoying the most. But the standard one, just kind of the average one that is most common to most players, that has a good amount of difficulty from the core game or from the vanilla game, is Survivor. And as you want to continue to get more difficulty, you can always run this installer again. So at any point you can just run any installer. So if it's the updated installer, you know, as long as you're running this installer again, you can just select a different difficulty and change whatever difficulty you want. So if you decide, hey, I'm feeling lucky today, I want to up it to Insanity, you can quickly just run the installer, select Insanity, hit next, install the mod, and then when you're done playing on a higher level of difficulty and you want to go back to your regular game, you can just run it again and select Survivor. Now moving down into the optionals. So for the first options here, for this first data 4, this was a request from the community to remove all childlike visuals from the biters, virals, and banshees. So I do have undead kids added to the game. I do think that that just kind of makes sense. The world has ended, and where did all the kids go? So the mod does include kids in the spectrum of new enemies added to the world. If you want to remove this feature, if that bothers you for any reason, you can always select this optional, and it will remove those visuals for the children models from the game. Not from the game, rather, but from the mod. This next option is always going to be a work in progress. So basically this is just a sample of what I'm currently working on in the background, where I'm continuing to make a custom map essentially and continuing to have to tear down some of the systems that are in place with the map system to add new content. In the future, I'd love to add new content to the world and actually build up a new world with new forts, new bases, new interesting areas with quests. But in order to do that, I need to continue to be able to test and find out what's working and what's not working. And so because of that, there is always going to be a running version of this custom map data, which allows you to get my latest version of the work in progress. To date, there are plenty of quest bugs related to doing this, and so if you are trying to play the storyline or the quest, go ahead and do not select this data 5. It will probably more than likely break one of the quests along the way. If this doesn't bother you and you just want to play the game with this custom information, and then at any point just quit the game and remove this data 5 manually from the install location, you can do that. It's just you need to know that it's there, and that's probably what's causing the issue. Next is going to be the pathways feature. So inside the pathways feature, basically a good summary of this is that if you want to start a new game but you don't want to start completely from scratch, you can now select a couple of different pathways. There's a summary for this on the changelog. I'm still working to get this information added to the manual itself. Some more information coming soon along with new pathways here in the future. But essentially this allows you to select out of 4 current pathways, and with each one of those you end up with different weapons and different skill sets. We have run into quite a few different little small bugs along the way of getting past the tutorial section of the game. Those should be fixed for now, but if you do continue to run into any issues, please let me know on the Discord channel. And lastly, down here at the bottom is the language packs. These are still very much a work in progress, but the idea is I want to continue to support the international community by doing the translations in the game. And what that will result in is that you will have translations, but currently without special characters. Still trying to identify the best way to get special characters added to the game or utilize the language packs that they have installed in the game to do that translation. As of right now, that's not currently available, but I am continuing to work with the community to identify how we can continue to get the latest and greatest versions of the translations into the game. And if you are curious about this, if you go to the Discord in the info section, I do have the actual link to the Excel sheet provided. So if we go in here to the info section and we scroll down on the info section, I've got a couple of links here along with the international translation spreadsheet. If you would like to contribute your knowledge of translations from my English versions, I apologize, I'm not able to translate to all these various languages natively, and so because of that I need your help to kind of go in there and spot check other players' translations, and some of these are actually done by Google Translate, and so because of that some of them are pretty poor. So any support you can provide there is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much. And that is the last of the optionals. So once you've gone through here and you've selected what you need, you can go ahead and hit next. So for this, we'll go ahead and choose the DoomsDay Prepper pathway, and we'll choose Survivor. And we'll hit next. You do not have to do a start menu if you don't want, but if you want to add that, you can. It'll just basically add some quick links to the Nexus page and all that good stuff. Once you get to this section, it will summarize what is being installed into your game. And when you go to change these features in the future, it will let you know that these were selected last time. So for example, if you select Survivor and you select a different option in the future, it is going to let you know that you're basically uninstalling this version and installing a new version. You don't have to do anything manually. It will do it for you. So we'll go ahead and hit install. And after that, we've got a couple of additional links along with some of the Patreon features. Go ahead and hit finish. And then what that's going to do is after you've installed the mod, you're going to get these 3 icons here on your desktop. So first and foremost is going to be the install path along with the Dying Light shortcut, and then uninstall I Am Legion. If you don't want any of these shortcuts, feel free to delete them, but what I would recommend is opening this I Am Legion install path and confirming that it's pointing to the folder that contains the engine, games, and PH folder. If you do not see those there, then you've probably installed to the wrong location, and you need to run the uninstaller, which can be found at that location, and it will remove the mod and go ahead and try again. In addition, if you go into the PH source folder, this is where all the mods need to be installed. So currently data 0, data 1, and this data BT are the actual vanilla files. So anything that goes in here above 1, so in this case 2 and 6, are installed by the mod. For whatever reason, if you're starting to install the mod and you go to this location and you're starting to see that there's a bunch of other files in this location, such as like a data 5, data 3, data 4, probably means you have old mods from the past. That can cause problems with installing this overhaul mod. So it may not hurt to just go ahead and run file verification. I'll go ahead and show what file verification looks like in this video as well. If you go to Dying Light 2, right click, go to Properties, and under Local Files, you can go in here and say Verify Integrity of the game, and that will go ahead and fix any problems that can be found inside the game. You will always need to reinstall the mod if you run this option. It will find a few files that are missing and it will replace those. That's just part of the process with the mod, but that should help fix any problems that you have. So here in the future, just be aware that this PH source folder is where all the mods are being installed, and then some additional R packs are being installed by the installer. That's the reason for the installer itself, and not using the Vortex or any other mod manager. So now that we have everything installed, this is also the install path if you're a Patreon supporter. So there is an install video for the Patreon content, but if you're just curious about where everything goes, there's a data4.pack, which is included with the Patreon. You can place that file here as well, and there will be an installer coming shortly for the Patreon content in the future, which will pair with the installer that you have already run. So it should help point that Patreon content to this location, but that's coming soon. Okay, let's go back to the desktop. So for this shortcut, that is just a very quick way to test to make sure that the game is set up correctly. You don't have to use this installer or this shortcut. This was simply to make sure that everything is running as expected. If you don't want to use it in the future, you don't have to, and you can simply delete it. The same is true of the uninstall I Am Legion Reborn. I would hold on to this install path for a little bit, just in case you want to very quickly install any other mods or very quickly customize and get into the mod config, which I will be using or jumping back to this exact point here in the future to do the mod config video. So we'll pick up shortly from there in a bit. For actually running and testing to make sure that the mod is installed correctly, you can go to Steam and go ahead and launch, or Epic Games if you're using the Epic Games Launcher. Once this loads, you should see in the bottom left corner, I know previously I had a couple of different ways. I had like the custom background on the main menu to help keep the mod very small and very minimal so that users continue to get the latest updates without having to download large file sizes. I've limited this down to just a banner. So this banner I will show you here in a second is just a small banner in the bottom left corner, and it should show you the latest version along with if you've installed a compatible version. So let me go ahead and bring that up. It's going to let you know if you've installed correctly that you have modified game data. That's normal. And then I'm going to go over here and quickly, scale the screen so you can see this version. So in the bottom right corner, you should see the latest version of the game. If there's a P at the end of it, that means there's an event ongoing and parts of this mod may not behave as expected. There's not much that can be done about this, as the community mods are basically injected over top of the game and there's no way for me to actually see the code that they're injecting. So it's always kind of a guessing game to see what they've actually done with the event. But I'll get to that here in a second. But if you want to check that version number, you can go over here to the left, and if you highlight this section, you should see that the version of the mod. I usually don't add the hotfix numbers here, so in this case it's only going to be the 1.4, and then if you click on that banner, it'll open up and it'll show you which version of the mod that you're playing. So currently we're on Survivor difficulty. And if you highlight this again, you'll see that this is compatible with 1.10.3c. What that means is the C represents what this version of the game is without the event. So if you see a C here or an A or a B, that's probably where I'm supporting the base version of the game without the event. You probably won't see that unless you launch the game in offline mode. So that should be compatible. The key part to look for is, like, for example, if it said 1.10.2 and you look over here to the right and you see that it says 3, then I would go ahead and either check on the Discord community or wait for an update if an official update has dropped that day. So if we go ahead and start a new game, so let's go ahead and start, and I'll show you what pathways looks like. So let me go ahead and delete one of these saves, and we'll go ahead and let that load in the background. For the difficulty in game, the mod currently supports all versions of the difficulty in the game, so you don't really need to worry about what the mod is compatible with as much as what you're compatible with, so what your play style is and what you're looking to play, and kind of what you're running into. And so you can always change that difficulty in game. So if you do select hard and you want to change that difficulty, you can always adjust that to lower some of those things such as damage and that kind of thing. So I should be able to jump ahead here shortly. You can see where it is now giving me some of those items. Go ahead and jump start our progress here. And I'll go ahead and skip ahead of all that information. And if you look here, if we go ahead and press inventory, you can see that I already get a full kit along with some weapons, along with a glider as well. So for the Doomsday Prepper, he immediately gets a glider. Now this is the modified version of the glider, so this is the actual glider that's based on the mod. So you can use that glider or you can use the PK armor that's included. But while equipped, and let me double check, make sure it's always when I least expect it. So yes, while equipped, you will have a glider, and if you unequip that glider, you'll no longer be able to use a glider inside the game. So kind of a little mobile glider there, but a fun way to allow you to quickly get your hands on a glider early on in the game so that you can explore the other areas of the game, along with a couple of accessories. So to just go ahead and jump start you off, along with a bow and arrow, and a crossbow for the Doomsday Prepper. So if you really want to jump in and go ahead and start kicking ass, you can do so by installing the Doomsday Prepper, and that will give you the same skill level. Sadly, some of those early bugs that I had with pathways is due to trying to give some of these skills immediately here from the start. That wasn't able to work, but you should be able to immediately get in and get these new items and start exploring the world. Okay, we're going to go ahead and exit out of this, and I'll very quickly summarize some of the most common bugs. So we're going to go ahead and do Alt F4 so we don't have to wait for this loading screen. So the most common one that I hear is usually when players report that their inventory is completely broken, that they have no weapons, no equipment, nothing inside their inventory whatsoever, no outfits, armor, etc. This is a very known and common bug, especially with the official updates. It probably means that you have a conflicting mod or your install has become outdated. So as I showed earlier, if you want to go ahead and run file verification, that is the best place to get started before reporting any bugs or getting upset. Trust me on this, it'll save you a lot of time to just go ahead and verify the integrity of the game. And then also in addition, if you open this folder again using this install path, if you go in here and you see, like, for example, a data 7, a data 5, that kind of thing, and you know it's not installed by the mod, to save time in helping me answer your questions and figure out what's going on with your system, trust me on this, go ahead and delete all other data packs that are not the core ones. For example, the data 0, data 1, or the data BT. Go ahead and just clear these other custom ones out of your system, run that file verification, and then run the installer again. That will give you a blank slate. And what I would also recommend to make sure that your game is not actually corrupted. So there is a known vanilla bug with the inventory and these official updates that can bake into your save game, especially when you're using modded files and all the various different versions of mods that are available on the Nexus. So if you completely remove your mods from the game, run file verification, launch the game, and you get any type of crash, or you load into your save game and you have weird icons, or your inventory is behaving oddly in any way, you may have a save game bug, and there's not a lot that can be done at that point because it is baked into your save game. So what I would recommend, and I'll have this loading in the background while I'm talking, is to use the rollback feature. So let's go ahead and launch this. I'll have this loading in the background while we continue to talk. So if you've run through everything, you've uninstalled the mods, and you run the game and it's still having this issue, you will probably need to roll back your save to see if there's a point in time where you didn't have this inventory bug, and then reinstall any mods after that point. So that's probably the most common one that I get. For any type of additional bugs, crashes, anything that you're dealing with, probably the best place to start is to utilize your documents. So you have crash logs that are generated every time you launch the game, regardless of whether or not it crashed or not. So if you go into Documents, Dying Light 2, Out, Logs, you can see here that it's generating different log files. There is a known bug with the core game itself now, where, for example, even on my system, I get this streamline render bug that can cause errors randomly inside your game. I don't know why this is happening, but I can get it on the vanilla game as well as with mods. So I'm not sure what's causing that, but if you see a bunch of KB files that are massive, that probably means you have an error that's repeating itself in the background. But basically, I always sort mine by date modified, and then you're always looking for the latest and greatest crash log. So let's go ahead and load into the game here. We're going to go ahead and hit OK, and then hit Play Campaign. And then with any one of the games that has the proper files in the background, for example, on the Nexus, I downloaded a save game and I use that save game for testing. It's one of the very early save games, way before any of these new updates. I use it to test to kind of see how older save games are able to be affected by the latest version. You can see there is no rollback option for this game because it was created during the time where they didn't have the rollback option. For these newer ones, you can see that I have the ability to roll back if I press X. So in this case, it's going to tell you how far back it's going to shift. And so just be aware it can actually backdate your game by a good amount. This is not really something that at this time the modding community is able to remedy. I mean, pretty much if you're at this point where you have no mods installed and you're launching your save game and your game is crashing, or you have inventory bugs, it really is just your save game at that point. And so I do apologize that that's happened. That's not really anything the modding community can stop or avoid with these constantly updating versions of the game. That's bound to happen, more than likely where you've continued to play the game with outdated data running in the background and it's somehow screwed up the save game over a period of time. So that's going to be how to revert your save game. For the crash logs, you can see here that my latest version is at 0 KB. When I go in here and hit quit on the application, it's going to go ahead and load that log file. So you can see there it just changed its number, and then when we load this, this is going to be the latest version of your run game. Now there are a couple of bugs that are, or not bugs, but there are a couple of warnings that you're going to see built into the game naturally, but the ones that you're looking for, let me see if I can very quickly go back to some of the older ones here and find a syntax error. If you type in SYN, let me see if I can find one with a syntax error really quick. Actually, that one that says 2000 is probably a good culprit. Here we go. So if you've got a syntax error that's occurring from where you're trying to modify the game, for example, you're messing with the mod config or something like that, and you've accidentally changed a line in the code that it doesn't recognize, it will flag an error hopefully, and give you the syntax error, and it will also tell you which file and which line. You can provide that information to me when you report a bug on the Discord community. And for any of the other ones, you should just get different forms of syntax errors over time. You can also search error and this will sometimes help you find errors that are occurring within the game. I often get these while I'm modifying the game because typos happen while you're going through the code. You don't really have a good way to check as you're going through on this modified code system. And so if you are going to report a bug, make sure to go to the latest and greatest version of the mod, or I apologize, of the logs, and make sure to send this to me as well. Just to save time, we'll go ahead and make sure there's nothing obvious in the crash log. This does also tell you how many different mods you have installed, so just be aware that every time that you run the game, if you have a certain number of mods installed, these are the modified files. It is okay that these show up as bad CRC and that it says it's corrupted and multiplayer is disabled. That's not actually the case. That's normal. So don't freak out by that. So additionally, I will go ahead and say that for most of the bugs that I see, most commonly the issues that we've run into over time is just where you need to run file verification. It's almost kind of a day and night go-to at this point of before even, wasting your time trying to fix any issues, run file verification, run the installer, and go ahead and try to run back through the installer and then launch again and see if that fixed the problem. Most of the time that does fix the issue. So in this case, let's say I want to change the difficulty. This is where I extracted the installer. We can go ahead and just run the installer. Once that loads up, we can go in here and select a new difficulty. It's going to keep that Doomsday Prepper. If you want to, for example, change your pathway or try the other ones, you can go in here and select any different one. You will need to start a new game though for that to work. So we're going to do Ultimate Survivor with Keeper of the Peace, and then we'll also do the custom map data. So let's hit next. It's going to let you know that you are changing files. So previously you had Survivor and Doomsday Prepper. It's going to let you know that it's basically I have to figure out a way to change this warning in the code because it's basically going to uninstall them for you automatically. I like this feature currently because it's just letting you know what's changing, but you don't need to do anything manually. It's about to do it, so you just hit yes, and it will summarize the new changes and the new updates that you're making. If we hit install, you should see here that we now ended up with the data 5. The data 5, again, as a reminder, is the map data. So if you have the custom map data and you're experiencing any type of quest bugs or any issues like that, the fastest thing you can do here to check to make sure it's not just something that's built into the new custom maps is to just go ahead and delete that data 5 and try running the game again. More than likely that will fix any issues that you're having with the quests. For this next part, I'll talk about co-op. So once, make sure to refer to the mod config video to know how to modify the actual config file inside the mod. But once you've got things set up how you want it, please refer to that video for any more information. But once you have things set up and are ready to go and you want to play co-op with your friends, all you need to do is make sure that everyone that's wanting to play this mod runs the installer. Make sure that they're selecting the exact same options that you did. And after you have everything installed and you've set up your mod config and you have everything how you want it, just go ahead and select these 2 files or any files that you've added to the game. So again, based on any optionals you select, if you don't remember which ones you've selected, please just run the installer again and hit next. It will tell you that you've added a data 2, that you've added a data 5, which I manually deleted, and then a data 6. And so you should be able to just select those exact files. Go ahead and send those to anybody that wants to play with you on co-op. If you're the host, go ahead and send those files out to your friends and they should be able to join your co-op game after that. Basically, it comes down to bytes at that point, and if there's any form of data mismatch whatsoever, it's going to reject those clients. So you have to send those files to each other for that to work properly. I think that summarizes everything. I want to keep the video as short as possible, but that is the install process plus a little bit of the debugging process. More information can be found on the manual. I encourage everyone to just very quickly jump into the info section. If you want to subscribe to the channel, I try to never ping everyone, only the subscribed users. So if you do want to get updates and you do want to hear what's going on with the mod, you can go and click on the subscribe button. And then I'll add you to the subscribe list. If you do not want to be a part of that, you can always right click your name and say remove from group, but you can also just let me know if it's not giving you that option, and I'll be happy to remove you from the subscribe list so you're not getting pinged when new updates come out. Also, please be aware that there is this green button, this green circle. It lets you know if there is a known event that's currently taking place inside the game. That means that you will need to disable that event code, and I meant to show that, and I'm going to launch this game again in the background so that I can show how to disable that. If this light is green, that means more than likely there is custom code affecting the game itself, and it's probably overriding something from the mod. So therefore, if you're getting any type of weird bugs or any issues, the best way to test to make sure that that's not an issue being created or caused by the event is to do this next following step, which is to disable the community events while you are playing the game, to just confirm that that is what's causing it, or to enjoy all of the content by the mod. If you scroll up, you'll find links to the Patreon. You'll also find links to the manual. I highly recommend to check out the manual and see what is included in this. It's become pretty extensive at this point. I've tried to go through and actually categorize everything and keep everything cleaned up. There's more information here than you've ever wanted to know. Please reference this when you have any questions. And please let me know if you don't see an answer here, because I am trying to continuously update this and continue to get in that information so that this is a resource for the community and actually useful. So in addition, if you have any additional questions or you have concerns about anything that you're seeing on your side, please use the basic steps here that's outlined in the video, but then also included in the manual. If you've tried those steps, please make sure to let me know that when you report the bug. Okay, let's go ahead and load into the game again. We're going to hit OK and then go to options. And then if we go to the game file, you'll see here that the community event participation, you can turn that on and off, just as simple as selecting that right here. If you turn that off, you're more likely to experience the full mod. If you leave it on, and there's an event ongoing, you are more than likely going to run into some things that you're like, wait a second, is this on purpose? Is this intentional? The fastest way, again, to find out whether it is or not is to simply turn it off and then go and confirm in the gameplay whether or not it's behaving the same way. More than likely, for some of the more common use cases, it's not. It's actually the event that's causing some weird issue, and you can turn that off inside the game. So when this event is over, I will make sure to go here and turn this light to red, and you should be able to play the full mod without worrying about the events. Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you for joining the video, and if you have any feedback or questions or comments, please make sure to leave them here on the channel. I really look forward to your feedback for this latest version. 1.4 is getting better and stronger than all the other versions of the mod, and I look forward to hearing your guys' feedback. Look forward to talking next time. Thank you so much.